Guest Secretary of State Marco Rubio actually saved the peace talks in Geneva, where the Americans wanted to impose on Ukraine a failed peace plan that only benefits Russia. Politico reports that Marco Rubio shifted the negotiations after a chaotic week, causing Ukraine and Europe to gain attention in the White House. Sources claim that the entire negotiating team from the United States of America consists mainly of friends and allies of Donald Trump and James David Vance. They were aggressive towards Ukraine and demanded that the peace plan be signed immediately, stating that Ukraine had already lost and it would be better for it to surrender. Marco Rubio burst into the negotiations, kicking the door open and cooled the pro-Russian officials' ardor in the White House. And now Politico is revealing behind-the-scenes details of the peace plan negotiations and how it was possible to get the part about Ukraine into the plan. My name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic in more detail, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave any comment under this episode, and subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel and stay up to date with absolutely all the news, you can do so financially with any donation or a paid sponsorship subscription, using the links and payment details in this video's description. There are all kinds of platforms and bank details there, as well as PayPal and even crypto wallets. So I would appreciate any support from you. So, according to Politico, the United States Army Minister Dan Driscoll writes, an unusual choice for a game. The diplomat spent 2 days last week delivering a tough message to Ukraine and its European allies. Accept the proposed peace. Proposal of 28 points by Thanksgiving, November 27. Otherwise, your country will be finished. But then Secretary of State Marco Rubio appeared. Rubio's arrival in Geneva on Sunday to join Driscoll and resume discussions with high-ranking Ukrainian officials changed the tone of the talks. The Trump administration team moved away from the firm deadline of Thursday, November 27, and according to Driscoll, Europeans and Ukrainians began to take more reasonable positions into account. 4 sources involved in the negotiations told Politico about this. The clearest sign of Marco Rubio's intervention is that the negotiation process has slowed down significantly. And that's a good thing. Another quote from Politico: chaotic United States diplomacy has clarified 2 truths about Marco Rubio's role in the Trump administration. First, foreign interlocutors and those in Congress see him as the go-to person for handling the Russia-Ukraine file. He comes in to restore order and refocus Washington on its allies and partners rather than on Moscow. Second, President Donald Trump's desire to abandon traditional policy coordination between departments and the cabinet has led to a turbulent foreign policy, where a number of senior officials act each in their own lane. That is, too many people are doing things they can't and shouldn't be doing. Rubio, holding a dual position, either intentionally or accidentally, did not play the usual role of national security advisor, coordinating agency plans before their implementation. But Rubio seems to have found a way, albeit belatedly, to get other administration officials in Geneva on his side. He organized the disagreements within the administration that had been made public over the course of several days, and in some hours before he took office. Let me clarify a bit. Marco Rubio is the Secretary of State of the United States of America, who is responsible for foreign policy. His position is essentially equivalent to our Minister of Foreign Affairs. But last week, before Marco Rubio appeared in Switzerland, it seemed that the foreign policy process was being led by United States Vice President J.D. Vance, through his close friend Danny Risco. By the end of the weekend, Rubio had taken the reins as the negotiations became more flexible. Nevertheless, on Sunday, Rubio was joined in Switzerland by Deputy National Security Advisor Andy Baker. These are close aide J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, who, according to a European official, showed a certain degree of independence, to put it mildly. Even when Marco Rubio took the initiative, they continued to defend positions that European and Ukrainian officials consider inconsistent with Marco Rubio's own approach. In other words, these people kept pushing the Russian position without even trying to engage in real negotiations. They were simply trying to force the Ukrainians to accept what was handed to them. Marco Rubio kept stopping them, calming them, and saying, "No, we're here to negotiate." And here I'll quote one of the European officials. "In Geneva, everything went in the right direction. The work is still in progress, but now the situation looks much better." Rubio is a professional who knows his job, but he works for the president who ultimately makes the decisions. Well, and it's funny how after that, on Monday, James David Vance rejected Republican Senator Mitch McConnell's statement that Putin is fooling Trump, calling his words a ridiculous attack on the president's team. She worked hard to bring order to Ukraine. And it's funny, after it became known that the proposed peace plan was written in Moscow, and it became especially funny after the publication of conversations between Steve Witkoff and Yuri Ushakov, Putin's aide. Trump's team stated that the president is simply using an approach in which he delegates authority to different people. These different people often work on the same tasks, and President Trump wants to see who will achieve the best result. So it's no surprise that there's such chaos. Diplomats say Marco Rubio's role in the negotiations gave America greater flexibility. As a result, the United States is no longer sticking as firmly to the original 28-point plan that alarmed its allies. Although the administration stated that this is just a starting point, and Trump said as recently as Saturday that this is not his final decision. At first, the administration didn't seem open to other proposals at all and demanded that Ukraine simply accept the document as it was. And the same Driscoll was assuring the Ukrainian delegation, saying, "Guys, we're not here to discuss anything. No, we're here so that you just simply sign the document." After Rubio's intervention, the United States and Ukraine created a 19-point plan without territorial concessions to be discussed by their presidents. And here's another quote from a European diplomat as cited by Politico. "Rubio simply understands better than many others in the current administration that none of them are diplomats. He is an expert on Ukraine, and very few know anything except myths about Russia. And Rubio understands that even in the difficult situation Ukraine is in, the Ukrainian government simply cannot sign a capitulation." Well, I urge you to remember that Donald Trump's peace plan was written by the Russians. And there is already too much evidence of this to pretend that it isn't true. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments under this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's it for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.